Welcome to the Everyday Athlete Podcast, where we explore the unique, untold stories of current and former athletes. Quick announcement before we dive in, the Everyday Athlete Train Program is now officially live. This online training program is the perfect blend of mobility, strength training, bodybuilding, and conditioning, which is great for former athletes and everyday athletes who want to get leaner, stronger, and more functional. So if you're tired of traditional training programs that only focus on one area of your fitness and you need something that is much more well-rounded, then this program is for you. Each workout is progressed for you inside of the Everyday Athlete app, which will keep track of all of your weights, progress, and data over time. This guarantees that you make improvements in your training each day while learning new exercises and skills along the way. Every one of my guys in this program stays engaged and looks forward to their training each day. So if you're ready to start seeing real results in your training, then head to the show notes after today's episode to join the Everyday Athlete Train Program, and you can use code PODCAST to get your entire first month for free. So this is on to episode number 3.
Nice.
With my man, Roy. No, I'm super excited about this. You know, Roy and I obviously go back quite a ways. And, I initially met Roy when he was speaking to the Ohio State football team. I was obviously a fresh, new, young athlete on the team. And Roy, would come in. He would do our chapel pregame. He would do our chapel postgame. He was just heavily involved with our Ohio State football team. And that's really when I met you initially. And then obviously, things transpired. And, as we kind of, went our separate ways after football, we re-huddled back up, post-football after I was done playing to help you with your health and fitness. And so, dude, it's just so crazy how our relationship has kind of come full circle. I obviously really cherish this relationship we have. You were my officiant at my wedding. We share a lot of just fun memories, dude, and honestly have connected so deeply over these last, 3 going on 4 years. And so, dude, I'm just really excited to dive into this thing, Roy.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. I didn't know that you were about to propose to me. That's awesome. I appreciate you saying all those kind things, man. And,
hey,
the Everyday Athlete Podcast has been something that's been in your spirit for years on top of years, and to kind of see it come to a reality, man, and like you can touch it, you can see it, you can feel it now, but now you have so much wisdom and expertise, not only in your field, but understanding the clients that you're working with and the people that you're working with. And I think now, just only in the 3rd episode, you've been able to generate and give so much value to the listeners just in 2 episodes, and now the 3rd. So I'm excited, man. It's been a fun time kind of watching you grow and develop as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, now as a husband, as a father, soon to be. I'm projecting that. But Zach, here's the thing though, for everybody listen, if you know Zach, how specific he is and detailed he is, I know him and his wife have the exact date, the exact time, the exact year. This is when we're going to get pregnant. Our baby's going to be born on this particular month because the moon is at this particular projection. And then from a health standpoint, it makes sense. And then, so it's just going to be interesting.
This is how you know he knows
for sure.
me.
It's going to be great, man. So no, man, you're going to be a great dad. When that happens, probably 5 or 6 years from now. But whatever it may be, I'm going to still be here. And then it's going to be new episodes on the Everyday Athlete if you got kids, like the kid edition. That'd be dope, man.
You're going to be on
bro.
it again, dude.
I appreciate it.
There's only so much, and we were talking about this prior to this. There's only so much that we can cover in this 1 hour, 1 hour and a half.
Yeah.
So I really am excited to dive in, man. I know that, you've helped me so much in my, just along my entrepreneurial journey, man. Honestly, Everyday Athlete, quick story for the listeners too. Roy, he works with, in his Driven Foundation, his nonprofit organization, and his professional speaking business. He works really closely with an ex-Buckeye marketing guy, Sammy Silverman. Shout out Sammy Silverman.
Sammy Silverman.
But a very pivotal kind of moment in my career where I was looking to rebrand. I knew Everyday Athlete was where my heart was at. That's really the angle I wanted to take, with this business. And I know for you, you got me in touch with Sammy Silverman and really kind of started that trajectory of that rebrand and that redesign. And dude, honestly, Everyday Athlete right now, what we see is the branding and just the logo and all of that, huge impact you had on that.
Yeah.
You helped me in those moments, kind of overcome those mental barriers of growth of, staying stagnant, staying comfortable. It's no, this is what you want. This is where you want to go. This is the evolution of where you envision the brand going. Do it. And I needed that. I needed somebody to tell me to do it. And I know that that's just what's cool about this trajectory, man, with the both of us. But let's just start off from the origin, man. Where are you originally from, born and raised?
Yeah, Cleveland, Ohio. Graduated from Brush High School, South Euclid, Ohio. shout out to the brush arcs, man. Like what arcs? Like what is an arc, man? It's a light. It's a light fixture. It's a light. It actually was developed by a grad from the University of Michigan, of all places. So brush arcs, Cleveland, Ohio, was awesome from an academic standpoint. Athletic standpoint, obviously. I mean, if you get a chance to play at The Ohio State University, however you get there, you probably were a standout athlete or elite from that standpoint. And just really was motivated by the opportunity to take care of my family. Grew up in a single-parent home. Mom did everything she could to take care of my sister, take care of me, and it was awesome. But there were challenges in there. I mean, financial challenges. There was a lot of transitions we had to have growing up, specifically early on in my life. Dad had some substance abuse challenges. Mom and dad got a divorce. And then all of a sudden you have some crazy financial challenges. Domestic violence was crazy in my home. So we had a lot of traumatic moments as kids. And my mom did. And so my whole motivation from a professional athlete going to college was spearheaded by, again, my mother, just like I told you, but she's saying, hey, if you want to be able to help me, take your academics serious. And so she really wasn't revolving around or in that atmosphere of football can take you to the next level or basketball can take you to the next level, because that really wasn't a reality, not only for our community, but just for her. That's just not how she was raised. She was thinking, hey, you need an education. And so, you know, my grades were always important to me, not so that I could, quote unquote, show how smart I was, but I just wanted an opportunity. Now, being blessed to be 6'2", 185 pounds as a freshman in high school. I graduated 210 pounds playing wide receiver. That's a whole nother ball game. That's a God-given gift from a DNA standpoint. And but just the whole motivation to get to even where I am today was to position myself to take care of the people that I love most in the world.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I feel like a lot of that, even in early on adversity as like a kid, you know, going through that, how did you handle that? Like, what do you feel like your mindset was like during those times to really like push through the adversity when things were really hard? You know, you were maybe running into adversity early on as a young kid.
Sure.
You know, how did you work through that?
Yeah, it's not easy. I mean, you know, you start thinking back to all the things that you can remember. And then sometimes I try and force myself to dig deep into some recollection of things that I've probably tried to suppress. But you're in panic mode. Like, you don't know what to do when you watch your mom go down from a hit from your dad or someone that she's dating. Like, you don't know what to do, how to focus on, how to process that, other than to go in protection mode. Yeah. And even at 8, I wanted to make sure I took care of mom. At 11 and 13, I wanted to make sure I took care of mom. But you still have that person in front of you. And so you start to draw your strength from the person who is going through the thing, and they show you what resilience looks like. Because if all of a sudden that person can't handle it anymore, a lot of times the kids suffer, the people around, like, I don't know what to do either. If you're going down, like, I don't know how to help you. But mom was so strong. She's the strongest person I've ever known, ever met. And she continues to be that. And she's a pillar in our family. So watching her take on hits, both figuratively and the realistic side of it is just, hey, she took those hits. And she kept fighting back, and she kept going, and she kept pushing. And, you just start to you watch resilience get built. And then you're able to understand that no matter how hard it is, you can keep going. So if she makes a statement to me like she did, hey, if you do your academics, if you keep up in school, that takes the burden off of me, that helps me, then I'm one to dive in full tilt. So, academics was really important to me because of where I knew it could lead me, but also who I knew it was impacting from my household standpoint.
Dude, yeah, absolutely. And I feel like, just taking on that responsibility, and as well, just like learning through those things and understanding, like having someone in your life too that can just model those things for you. Like, I think that's so important, like seeing the resilience firsthand. Like, it's something that directly impacted you, directly impacted your mindset. And I think it's really where you've drawn a lot of that empathy you have now to help others. Like, do you feel like a lot of that has impacted, what you do now?
Certainly. That's where it came from.
Yeah.
Number one, knowing what it takes to get through hard times. And so when you have a dual parent home and you got mom and dad around, Everything is not always perfect, but you have 2 incomes for the most part. Everything is like solid, like the American dream.
There's like a foundation.
Sure. So you take out half of that. Now all of a sudden you have the burden to take care of 2 on 1. And so mom has to get a second job and sometimes a third job. And she has to take these odd jobs. She doesn't have a car. She's walking to the bus stop, taking the bus to save that money to not have a car payment. There's no life insurance. Like eviction notices are coming and going. Like you're right on the cuffs of getting put out your home constantly. There's, electric bills not getting paid. There's so many different sacrifices. Back in the day, you could write a check and checks would bounce all the time, like if you didn't have the money. And so you're trying to piece together how to have a family dynamic, and it's a struggle. So not having the popular clothes or the best shoes, wearing shoes that didn't have the Nike sign on them, wearing clothes that were hand-me-downs constantly, not having what you wanted to eat from the grocery store, not going to the nice restaurants, not having those moments was something that was common for me. And so now when you fast forward and you get into a position to be able to take care of others, not only do you have I didn't realize. You're like, some people say, I didn't realize these people needed help, or I saw it, I just didn't realize how bad it was. For me, I experienced it. So going through it and not having organizations and people around to contribute and help us, we fought through it. It was very, very difficult, but I would never want someone to go through what we went through
alone. And,
so now all of a sudden, you could. And I'm glad you put out the word alone. You're not, and we aren't put on this earth to do life alone.
No.
In anything.
Nothing.
No matter what it is.
I couldn't have made it to this point without you, dude.
And so everybody, I appreciate you, man. Again, you keep proposing to me.
I do.
But this
guy means a lot.
You were not designed or put on this planet to do life alone. And so part of that is, pushing through. But the other side of it is not only just being able to ask for help, because some people are afraid to ask for help. The other side of it is having other willing participants on the other side coming and searching out for you. So I believe that we should be looking for service and outreach and help opportunities where we can give our gifts, resources, whatever that may be, a handout, or even just some encouragement.
Something small.
Just get so you got someone who needs it and someone who's looking for it. Now all of a sudden it's a perfect match. So when I got to the NFL, and even at Ohio State, we did tons of outreach, visiting the James Cancer Hospital, visiting local elementary schools. When you go into a local elementary school to read to kids, you're like, all right, I'm going to read to kids. But if you're really focused and paying attention, you can look into the audience and see which kids have their head down. You can see which kids are disruptive because maybe they're going through something. You can see kids that maybe have on those same non-branded Nike shoes or whatever, or non-branded shoes. You can see kids who, when you give them hugs and they come up to you and run up to you afterwards and give you high fives, and they go by and you're like, man, that kid smells like he didn't have a shower in a while. You got some kids that have you start to observe and pay attention to the things that these kids are going through, and you're like, man, I wish I could do something other than just read to them.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did once I got to the NFL, and you start developing your own foundation. We got the Driven Foundation now. Me and another former Buckeye, Antonio Smith, founded that 15 years ago, 15 plus now, to be able to make a difference by doing the small things for families and kids in need.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. And I'm really excited. I definitely want to talk a little bit more in depth about Driven down the line.
Yeah.
But even just rewinding a little bit to that trajectory, transitioning to a place like Ohio State. Like, I know for me, joining that team, coming to Ohio State, it was just such a unique experience for me.
Sure.
I was a dual sport athlete in high school, played lacrosse, played football, ended up pursuing lacrosse at the collegiate level, quit, walk on the football team.
Selfish. Don't be selfish.
Play out the rest of my time on the football team, earn a scholarship, live out my dream. And that's kind of how I ended up there. Yeah. Very unconventional process and path. Sure. How did you land at Ohio State? Was there a moment? Was there a specific series of moments? Like, when was that moment where you decided, I'm taking my talents to Ohio State? Yeah. I really know this is a school that I want to play for.
First of all, let's change quit to resigned. All right, you resigned from lacrosse.
Yes.
You made some life decisions and decided that this wasn't for me anymore. All right, quit. You're not really a quitter. You're like a resigner. Let's just call it that.
A pivoter.
Yeah, you pivoted off of one sport and joined where you're supposed to be anyway.
Exactly.
Destiny was calling you. That's
exactly, bro. Exactly.
And so Ohio State for me was a simple decision. It was close to home, so I wasn't going to leave home. Once Ohio State offered me, I knew that's where I was going to go. I found out that Michigan, of all places, places wasn't that far from Cleveland. I mean, it was about 3 hours.
It's really not bad.
You know, Ohio State's 2.5 or 2 and 15 minutes, but that was it. Like once the scarlet and gray, I mean, my favorite color was red always.
Yep.
And there's a picture that my mom has from, I don't know, when I was like 1 year old in some Ohio State gear. Now, she wasn't an Ohio State fan. I think somebody just gave it to her.
Right.
But I mean, you know, call it foreshadowing, call it somebody being a prophet somewhere that knew that I was going to end up at Ohio State. But there was no massive moment where I was like, man, I know. I mean, when I walked into the stadium and walked into the shoe on a visit and saw the 100,000 screaming fans and saw my name that they put on the back of their jersey when you were getting recruited, it was the little things back in the day. You know, they give you a little jersey, put your number on it, put your name on the back. There was no NIL discussion. There was, I mean, it was just the very fabric of the opportunity to go to college and to play at a big time university and potentially go to the NFL was absolutely awesome, man. Like that's what it was about. Like the education piece was big for us. Like I was the first person in my family to go to college. So now all of a sudden, not only do I get to go to college, I get to play for the biggest university on the planet. And at the time, I didn't know how big that really was. Like I knew I was going on, but I didn't know how big Ohio State football really. I wasn't even an Ohio State fan in high school. Right. Like that wasn't a thing. I wanted to play basketball. Like. But at 6'2.5", 6'3", like unless you're playing point guard, like you're not going to the next level. And so, you know, when I got an opportunity and somebody said, hey man, with your size, you are NFL receiver size now. If you just kind of cultivate and develop those talents, you might have a chance. I definitely pivoted on my mindset from I want to go to college to play basketball to football. Now I still was a Division I first team All-State basketball player. And I look at the list, I looked at it not too long ago. Somebody sent it to me. And some of the guys, like 3 or 4 guys on the list, one guy went to Carolina, one guy, we had a couple guys come to Ohio State that played for us. And I was on that list with them, but I was coming to play football. So I love being the best in all things, football, basketball, running track, academically. But once I went to the shoe and I knew it was only 2.5 hours away from mom, I was coming. Period. I was coming. Now I could have went anywhere now. Now anywhere from Princeton and Harvard and Yale because of my grades. So they wanted, they offered to Alabama, USC, Notre Dame, Texas. I could have went wherever I wanted to, but Ohio State was home.
And it was like, I'm staying close. I'm going to be near my family.
There was no way I was leaving mom. I mean, 71 go take 71 north, you know, or 71 south, depending on what direction you're going. And I'm gonna be home in 2.5 hours, man. So that's what it was. So those days where you get homesick, or you want some home cooking, or maybe mom's having a bad week, you just go visit. Like that's what it was about. Makes total sense
too. Yeah, like knowing you, knowing your upbringing, knowing your mom now too, like makes total sense, dude. I would have done the same. I would have done the same thing.
And at the time, I had never been on a plane. You know what I mean? Yeah. So getting on a plane and flying, no, thank you, bro. No, thank you.
Well, dude, I know that, and this was what was really cool for me. I never really knew Jim Tressel. I never got to meet him prior to my experience at Ohio State, and being involved with you and some of your stuff outside of football. What has been really cool for me is getting to meet people like Jim Tressel and getting to have conversations with him and see, like, he has truly this gift. I told you this too after your what was it
leadership
called? The leadership conference. So after the leadership conference, I was telling you, I'm like, dude, I've never met anybody that is more present than that man, Jim Tressel. Like, just no matter who he was speaking to, and he was getting pulled in 800 different directions at this event, and he was just so present with every conversation. And it really stuck with me because it was during a season of my life where things were super busy. It was like, I'm getting pulled in 8 million different directions. And I could see this man, who is much further along than me, much wiser than I am, just being there, like just being present with these people, with each individual human he was talking to at this conference. And I played under Urban Meyer. He helped change my mindset, my attention to detail, how I value the little things, kind of like you were joking about in the beginning with how my wife and I are wired. A lot of that, I developed through my experience with Urban. And so, those experiences really did change me for the positive. I'd be curious, what was that experience like for you under Jim Tressel, and how did he change your life?
He molded, probably thousands of men at this point in time. Just the mindset, service-minded, very patient, very selfless. And he forces you to look in the mirror and figure out what you can do to contribute to the solution, instead of complaining about what you're not getting. So in some of my moments in speaking to these different businesses, it's stop complaining and contribute. Like, don't complain, contribute. The contribution comes from looking in the mirror first. What can I do? Like, it's easy to point out the problems and the challenges, but what are you doing to contribute to the solution? And so trust was real big on team, that everyone had a role to play. And no matter what it was very, very valuable. And it's not so much I'm a put you in a trance so that if you're not playing, it keeps you from complaining. It's saying that even if you're not getting what you want, what is it that the team wants, and what are you doing to contribute or get us closer to that goal? And I think when the team accomplishes the team goals, individually, you'll get an opportunity to accomplish your own personal goal. I mean, I'm a prime example of that for a lot of reasons, but my senior year, I got hurt, missed about 3 or 4 games early in the season, had a high ankle sprain, took me a while to get back into the receiver rotation. I ended the season with 12 catches, 147 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I scored in the Michigan game. I scored in the night game versus Iowa. I have a couple big catches in the Michigan game. But then all of a sudden, it's time to, we lose in the national championship game. You got to get ready for the draft. But over the course of the draft, going to an all-star game, then, performing well in these individual workouts, Anthony Gonzalez, who was a first-round draft pick at receiver, every time he got called in by a team or a team visited the facility and they worked him out, they worked me out as well. And so I'm getting eyes on me that wouldn't be on me, and those coaches all talk. And then I find myself on 3 or 4 visits. I went to Seattle. I went to Minnesota. I was in Cleveland. I went to Atlanta. I met Michael Vick in Atlanta when he was down there. Like, they all of a sudden, these other teams start bringing me in, and I'm like, man, like, I don't even have the numbers. And then on my pro day, I run a 4.3 at 235 pounds, and okay, now I'm on the board. But I also play special teams. Playing special teams put me on the map in regards to, hey, this guy can play receiver, big body, could run down the field, can cover kicks, cover punts.
Can block.
Versatile, can block, whatever we need him to do, and he's willing to do it. Most guys that play receiver are not willing to do it. So you're looking for a linebacker, your type to run down, or a fullback type to run down. But we got this receiver that can do some other things, and, the Colts love what they saw and drafted me. Why? Because I was a team guy. 12 catches, 147. Jackson Smith and Jigma, I think, had 300-some yards in the Rose Bowl game and 12 catches in that game, right? Guys are putting these numbers up in a half, and I was a 5th-round draft pick. Then they had just come off of winning the Super Bowl. And so now all of a sudden, the Colts win the Super Bowl, and I'm one of the guys that gets drafted. So in the 5th round, I've watched guys that have dominated the Big Ten and dominated Ohio State get drafted beyond the 5th round. And so it's a blessing in that. I believe it's a destiny in that. And I think that's a God thing for sure. I know it is. But also it speaks to the value of you as a human being. And just because things aren't going exactly the way that you want doesn't mean that you can't get to where you want to be. And so a lot of that has to do with your mindset. If that's, if I'm a transfer, I'm a quit, I don't want to do this no more, I don't like my coach, it's Tressel's fault. This whole remember who you are and winner's manual and quiet time and being polite and kind to each other, that doesn't work. If I have that mindset, now all of a sudden I'm not in this position. So yes, 4.3 40 at 230 does help from a potential standpoint in the NFL, but also putting on film and getting those interviews right and having good people say good things about you goes a long way. Yeah,
dude. And I love what you said about Jim Tressel, how he would really get you guys to look inward. And really get so crucially honest with yourself. And I know, in our sessions and just throughout this time together that we've known each other, we talk about that extreme accountability and extreme ownership all the time. And I don't know why this happens, but it just seems like when we don't have the excuse of sport anymore, we lose that. We become an adult. We get busy. We have other priorities. Like, we start to lose a little bit of that mindset. And I think that's what's so great about you, man, is like, at the age you are, you're fully removed from sports for a long time now. Sorry, I don't like to remind you.
In different ways.
But bro, you embrace that mindset so much. And I think that's super powerful. And I think that that's really where everybody can get better. Like, regardless of, I've hit that point, I'm sure you've hit that point in your entrepreneurial journey where it's like, I'm playing the victim a little bit. Woe is me. Why are things not working in my favor? Every single time I've hit one of those instances, bro, I always look inward. Like, at first I kind of have that little moment where I feel sorry for myself, but then it's like, what can I do about it?
Yeah.
What can I attack? What can I control? And I think that mimics a lot of, what we talk about too with taking care of your health, your fitness as a athlete or as a former athlete.
Yeah, man.
Now that's gone. So, dude, I think, for me at least, when I was transitioning out of college, I hit the peak of my athletic career in college at the D1 level. You hit your peak in the NFL, and I feel like for guys, the transition is just real when you're transitioning out of being an athlete. That transition is so very real, and I personally think just seeing guys go through it, that guys who play at the higher level, like the higher level you play at, the harder that transition is.
For sure.
So for me, I obviously was transitioning out of D1 athletics, D1 college football, and that really impacted my mental health. It impacted my purpose, my identity of who I was and what I wanted to do from that point on. What was that experience like for you, especially transitioning out from the collegiate level?
From
the NFL?
Yeah. I mean, every transition sucked. Even going up, the transition sucks.
Yeah.
Like, going from high school, where everything is like, man, your buddies, your high school buddies, your hometown, everyone, you grew up together, and everybody goes their separate ways. And most of the time, you don't even speak to those people unless it's some sort of reunion, or at this point, there's not even too many reunions anymore because you see what everybody's doing on social. And then you get to Ohio State and you got to start all over. And yes, it's your dream come true, but it's difficult to get to a level where you're going against
You're starting
guys.
from ground zero.
And you're going against guys that are better than you, that are more seasoned than you, have more experience and wisdom, and now you got to play catch up. And so once you get through that, you build your community, your routine, all the things that are given to you at the D1 level, whether it's meal prep and your classes are taken care of. You pick your classes first. You don't have to wait. You got the best tutors, best facility. You got the best of everything, which is a part of the deal, which is why you're expected to go out and perform. But then you go to the NFL and you got to start all over again, where you get maybe half of that. You still get everything given to you, but everything's independent because everyone's an individual and independent contractor at that point in time.
Yeah.
Yes, we're on a team, but everybody's making different money. Everything's different. People's notoriety are different. You got Peyton Manning on one side, and you got this guy who's an undrafted free agent on this side, and we're in the same locker room. You start to develop different characteristics of being a human being and being a good person from that. However, it's just another transition. Now, going back the other way, now there's obviously benefits. You're making good money. You're on national TV. You're playing the sport that you love. You're literally getting paid to play football, which is fantastic. But going the other way, you lose all of it at the same time. I don't believe that you lose just playing at the level that you're on. You don't just lose the NFL. You lose the NFL, but you lose Ohio State and you lose and mourn like the high school piece. I think because you keep moving up, you're like can get past it. It's like being in a relationship. You break up and jump right back in, and then once something really comes crashing down, you look back and like, man, where the heck and how did I get here? So you're mourning. Hey, man, I remember being a kid. But that 4 years or 5 years in college flew by, and I didn't even get a chance to think about graduation like everybody else did. You didn't go to the parties. You didn't hang out with your friends because you're thinking, I want to go to the next level. NFL comes. Same thing. You come in with 25 or 26 guys in your class, maybe 10 get an opportunity to play in the NFL, and then probably of that 10, probably 3 or 4 of them last longer than 2 years. And so everybody goes their separate way. And then when you get out, you're like, man, no more football in general. I've been doing this since I was 7 or 8. Now I'm 27, 28. For 20 years, you're focused on one thing, getting to the next level, being on a team, and then all of a sudden you don't have it. Any transition is difficult. The loss of a parent, the loss of a loved one, the loss of a dog. Like you have things that mean so much to you, and then all of a sudden they're gone. And to you, you're like, this is the worst thing in the world. To outsiders, they're like, get over it. Like, figure it out.
Right.
But pain, I've found, is so unique in that the person that's going through the pain is the person that's really understanding and feeling it the most. Even if we've gone through the same thing, my pain is my pain. So when people are like, hey, man, I know what you're going through. No, you don't.
Yeah.
You have no idea. You've experienced it on your own plane. That's why some people can transition from a high-end job and go to the next and be good and really legitimately be okay. They may have 24 hours of being down, but then you could have somebody that's down for 24 months.
Yeah.
Like, I can't figure this thing out because their identity may be connected to that particular position more than others. So in transitioning, it's always going to be tough. What helped me was taking the things that I gathered and gained from each one of those levels and all the respective people on those levels that I've been introduced to, put it in a pot and said, what can I use to kind of help me through? And then the ultimate is who's depending on me to get off my butt.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if I'm 27 or 28 and my goal was to help take care of mom, and that's still my goal, or take care of my family, or by that time, I had 2 kids by then, like, I got things I got to do. So again, you look inward. Yes, this is not going the way that I want. No, I'm not going to be able to make the same money I'm making in the NFL right away doing what I'm doing. However, I got to figure out a way to earn, figure out a way to contribute. And I've started over 3 or 4 times in my life. I started over at Ohio State. I started over in the NFL. So starting a business or going into a field or working for a company, it's going to be a start over period. And it's not going to look like the way that I want to, but I can literally reinvent myself and also not even reinvent myself, but I can show what I can contribute.
Yeah.
I was a good team member because I was able to do these particular things. I don't find value. Like, I love speaking. I love it. I absolutely love it.
If you guys can't tell, it's what he does.
I love speaking. But it's not the speaking piece. Some people like the stage.
I know we think about this deeper. And I know it goes so much deeper than just speaking.
The speaking piece is like, that's what you can maybe listen to. It almost becomes entertainment. We're on a podcast now. You can hear people talk all the time. I don't like, the stage is not the thing. It running into the stadium was not the thing for me, right? Like, it's 100,000 screaming fans. That wasn't the thing for me.
Yeah.
It was being a part of something and working on something, and then we actually accomplished it together. If we had to run a toss sweep in football and the running back's getting the ball and I had to crack on a linebacker and lay somebody out, I felt just as invigorated with that and fired up from that as catching the touchdown pass. I promise you, because it's nothing like laying out a linebacker. It's nothing like a receiver taking out a linebacker. And so for me, like the speaking thing is good, but it's something about watching people's expressions and watching them come to life, and you can see it in their eyes, you can see it in their energy, and they tell you afterwards, like, what you said today, what you did today, how you delivered that message today, whatever that little nugget was that I took away, man, it changed my life, man. Like, that piece right there is what does it for me, and that's what does it for me with my organization too. Family of 6, single mom, living in a hotel, and we pay for 3 more days of them in that hotel room or in that motel room, and then we provide them with a week's worth of food, and then we pay a car note, we pay to get them a new battery on their car, we gave some shoes to some kids. Now, all of a sudden, we've shown you and provided an avenue of hope for you. Like, you're not forgotten about.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, I know my thing that gets me going is how I can help other people, period. I'm helping somebody write a book right now. And my book ain't even came out. I've been writing my book for like 5 years, bro. But it's because I keep getting distracted by other people's destiny, but I also believe that gives me fulfillment. I know 100%. It gives me fulfillment. So it's not even a distraction. It's like my destiny is to help other people with their destiny, and I'm okay with that. Like, there's value in that. So, like, your logo every day. Like, think about countless conversations we've had about what you should be doing for your podcast, what you should be doing, and we're building and growing. Like, I don't even have a podcast. Like, it's just because in my mind,
constant service of others.
I love it, but it's good. I'm like, no, man, you should step away and do what this is about. And I know how to earn. I can go out and I can speak, and I've been blessed. Well, people will pay me and have paid me $40,000 to do a 40-minute speech. And they're like, what you made $1,000 a minute? I don't look at it like that. Yeah. It's just the value of, what's the value of you going into a room and speaking to 1,000 people, and they're working for some big sales company, and let's say you influence 20 people out of the 1,000 to go from earning 100,000 to $1 million. Like, what does that add back? Like, what type of value does that add to the company? It adds everything. So if you invest in me, and it's not really investing in me, it's investing in your people.
Absolutely.
So, if you have some people, hey man, I got a company of 100, we did 100 million last year. Hey, can you come in and speak for $1,000? What you're telling me is you're literally investing like $10 to each one of your people. $10, that's all your people are worth. And they made you 100 million last year. So my thing is, my life is valuable to me, and I find fulfillment in helping other people. Period. Point blank.
Yes.
If I'm doing that, that's when I'm in my best, at my best zone. Me taking time to do something for me, Like my one thing, people like, Roy, what do you do? Man, I go work out with Zach. That's my thing. Like, you know, like I don't go get my head shaved. I shave my own head. Like I don't like I line my own beard up. My thing is I'll go out and I'll work out with Zach. Other than that, for the most part, I'm trying to figure out how to help other people, man. And I think the transition, to go back to the original question, the transition for me was making my life about others, which made me probably subconsciously feel valuable, but it also allowed me to discover what my true value is. And it's what Trust said all the way a long time ago. Like, remember who you are and be of service to others. Like, that's it.
And that's what's so ironic, man, is like, that's literally what I've embraced too, and what I embraced when I was transitioning out as well. And I really want to harness that, man, because you're, as everyone just heard, you're a successful dude now. And we're going to dive more into that. Sure. Like, you are a successful guy. I like to think, you know, I've pulled myself out of that dark place that I was once in, but I really want to talk about that because I know that other guys go through that. And I know that it's hard. Like, I know for me, you know, it came down to, I was trying to make a team. I did pro day. I'm banking on getting that phone call. I've got, you know, Urban Meyer hit me up and other coaches hit me up like, hey, have you heard yet? Have you heard from that team? Any teams yet? Haven't heard anything. Haven't heard anything. I'm sitting there with Justin in my apartment and I'm like, I got nothing. And then, you know, I get a semi-unique opportunity to go do a workout with the Browns. Nothing comes of that. So then it's like that door for me, I basically reached like the peak in college. You know, I was starting, I was playing, I mean, dude, you're riding those highs, you're living that dream. You've always wanted to live this dream. You're living it. And it's gone. And like for me, it was like a switch. It was like you were living this life and then bang, it's over, gone. And I know for me, like I was saying earlier, like I was depressed. I was lost. I really had to find myself again. And I feel like a lot of guys in that very pivotal moment, they don't use that as an opportunity to find themselves again and kind of reinvent that new transition of, what am I going to do next? How am I going to take all of these amazing skills, like you were saying that you did, and apply that to something new? So what was that like for you?
Yeah, I think there is
mentally and emotionally.
There's two sides to it. The straightforward answer is, you know, depression looks different for everyone. For sure. Anxiety looks different for everyone. You know, for me, I think that, and it got me down. I just carried it with me. So while being depressed, or at that time, you didn't really have too many people to talk to about it. You don't even know how you're feeling. You don't know how you're feeling. You just know that you're not right. And it can't be just tied to football because it's everything else. Because when you were in football, you were complaining about football. Like, man, I can't, man, the coach is getting on my nerves. I'm not playing enough. Like, so it's not just the football piece. But I believe a lot of it is who you were in that thing. And I believe this about a lot of things, like our identity is connected to so many things and people because of the person that we are around those people or around that thing. It did something to you. Like, you were a version of yourself that you wanted to be. You were a champion. You were a part of a team. You had a role to play. You had a job. People cared. You could show up. There was food and lunch, and like,
you were flying first class.
I got status. I don't have to wait. Like, you're right, first class. People know me. Like, just who you are in that space. And when that space is gone, all of a sudden you feel like that version of you is gone. And then as soon as you realize, like, nah, like, I'm that person, I just have to create that somewhere else. Now all of a sudden you can start to go in the direction that you want to go in. For me, I mean, there's practical ways to get through it. Hey, let me just get down, put my head down, get on my grind, do what I know to do. The other side is the spiritual component, the faith-based piece of it, because there is this line of depression, but on the other side of the line of depression is impression. And what impression up to that point has God and Jesus had on your heart along the way? And so depression, you will stay in that space if he hasn't, or you hadn't allowed him to make an impression on you up until that point. It won't be a weapon that you can use to fight against this depression. However, when you are in a state of depression and maybe God has not had an impression on your life or on your heart, you should probably open up to that side of it or allow him to come into your space to start to help you get through it. I don't know, and I don't judge people, but I don't know how people get through life without faith, because yes, you cannot see it. You cannot feel it. It's not something that you can just go purchase, but it is something that's already been paid for you. And so when you understand that, you're like, I can tap into an energy source and a power source. And Acts verse 1, I'm not trying to preach, but in Acts verse 1, Jesus is going back to heaven before he leaves the earth forever in regards to physical form. And he says to his followers, like, man, I'm going away now. Like, it's your time to go out and put in this work. And it says, when my spirit comes upon you, you will receive power. I literally just did this exact message to the Buckeyes, like before we played Indiana. But I said that word, like, you will receive power, not, wisdom and all of that stuff, and like to be able to work and like ideas. No, you have power. Like, when you got real power, bro, there's nothing that can stop you. Not depression, not anxiety, not financial challenges, not a bad relationship. Not like, there are things that will oppose you. There are things that will be your opposition, but there's nothing that can steal your power unless you just don't use it. Like, my iPhone will die if I don't connect it to a power source. If you are connected to a power source in your faith, you can get through anything. And if you feel like my power, like, some of these people, they get these cheap $5 chargers. They take like an hour to charge your phone, bro. But then there's the ones that you can buy from Apple that's like $50 they hit you over the head with. If your charging source is not strong enough, then you connect to another. Right? So if I'm going through something and I connect to Zach, connect to you, I connect to Cardell, I connect to Justin, now all of a sudden, bro, I'm getting charges off of your stuff. Like, it's literally like going out to eat and you being the person that's broke and everybody know you ain't got no money and you ain't got to pay, but you eating at the best steakhouse in the city and ain't nobody even mad at you. They just want you to come with them, right? They're not looking like, let's split the bill up. Like, no, I got this. And you feel like, man, like, you in that moment, like, I feel bad that I'm not contributing, but dang, I got some people that's looking out for me and I just ate good. Like, look who's at my table. And so for me to eat, like, the part that made it a little bit easier was staying connected to people that have either gone through what I went through, are still in the faith-based component, but also those people who were willing to fight and be on the grind with me, man. I think that's so important in transitioning anywhere. It goes back to what you said earlier. Use the word alone. We are not designed to do life alone. We're designed to do it with other people, but also we need to make sure that we have a foundation and base of faith to lean into and then tap into when things are going right and going wrong.
Absolutely, dude. And I think that having that faith foundation, having that family foundation, having good people in your life, that foundation, like, that is all a collective that really helps us in those moments of despair. And I know that I leaned on loved ones, guys that I played with, family, anybody who could relate to me in that circumstance. And I know another thing that really helped me was leaning into my health, my fitness, my personal development. Like, I feel like for me, dude, like, as you can see, that's literally,
makes sense.
It took me all the way to where I am now. But dude, that personal development piece was so important to me because I think it goes back to what you were saying about Jim Tressel, about really looking inward. And we do such a bad job of that, where I feel like we just distract ourselves instead of getting real with, like, what do we really need to do to get to where we want to get to? And so I know when I felt lost, man, like, focusing on leaning into my health, my fitness, my training, my personal development really helped pull me out of that dark place. How important have those things been for you in your life as a former athlete?
Huge, man. Huge. For me, health and wellness, literally, like, I mean, it's where a lot of guys lose it. It's the first thing to go.
It's the first thing to go.
And not even just a lot of former athletes, just people in
busy
general.
People.
Like, when hey man, I'm a CEO of this, I'm doing this, my business is growing, I just opened a restaurant, I just opened this, I got this online thing, I started this podcast. If you look at yourself in the mirror, most people do not like what they see. However, they can throw on clothes to cover up or whatever it may be. Watch how many dudes wear t-shirts at the pool. Like, what are we doing? Like, they wear t-shirts, like they're just kind of closed off, because their health piece is the piece that they haven't made time for. Because that's the piece where you can, if you have enough money and enough success, people will overlook. But over the course of time, the way you look literally, like, is important to you.
And how you feel. It impacts everything. How you look and feel.
So, like, I was always a guy that, I mean, there have been moments where I was like, yeah, I probably need to go do something. But usually it was like when I was injured, like when I had a lot of injuries, knee surgeries, and you start to lose your muscle mass and things, but then you're still motivated because you think you can come back and do it. And I think there's a difference between, like, for me, lifting, me just lifting weights to lift weights, because there's something in my mind that says I need to look a certain way. And if I look this way, people will perceive me a certain way. So there was a time when I was a musclehead 270, like just strong for no reason.
We're talking about that Monday.
Yeah. Elbow hurting, knee hurting, shoulder messed up. But I'm lifting, competing with these people in the gym that I got beef with, and I look at and they're doing 315, and I'm like, that's nothing. And so you, in your mind, you think just because you're big and swole, like, I'm still feeling like a ball player. I'm still feeling like me. When really it's not even that, as much as it is like you're trying to project something that maybe is not you, or you're dealing with something. And so I'm just lifting without guidance almost. So that's okay. But then I'm like, yeah, this is not going to work. You know what I mean? And then you also start to look like, I like the way I look, but I don't like the way I feel. Yeah. Which is a thing. Like, you love what you have, but you don't like the way you feel. You love your relationship the way it looks on social media, but that's not really how y'all are in person. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, we've been around y'all, man. Like, nobody wants to hang out with y'all. So a lot of the things now you can project what it is. You know, I know people who, you know, not saying they don't do the same thing as you, but they lift in different things. And they put a lot of pictures up with the shirts off and abs and running miles. And then you talk to them and they are struggling. And you're like, bro, like, but it's the ability to project something. And then the other side is the ability to actually perform it in real life. And a lot of times that's not the case. So for me, the health piece has been great. And here's the thing. It sounds good. Health sounds good. Lifting sounds good. Running sounds good. Cardio sounds, all the stuff sounds great. Yoga, flexibility, mobility, those sorts of things. But if you don't have somebody to guide and help you through it, like, you're going to be wrong. And so, like, you were the missing piece for me. Like, hey man, you're doing some good things and you're doing some terrible things. And so this is something
that is a touchy conversation. Like, it's give and take. Sure. We were talking about that on Monday, like that client relationship. It's like this give and take, man, where like you're doing a lot right. Yeah. You're doing some stuff we need to fix. And we got to develop that trust in each other to trust what it is I'm telling you. The hardest
part is people having results doing it the wrong way. Yeah. Right. And the results that they think that they can have. But how long can you maintain those results? And so how long can you be 265 and lifting all these weights before your right shoulder falls off? Right. And so now I've transitioned into just listening. Like, but that's what I was doing at Ohio State. That's what I did in the NFL. Tell me what to do, coach. I'm going to give you my opinions. Like, I saw this. I wanted to go this way. This is why I did it this way. But ultimately, it comes back down to coach would be like, yeah, I know you saw it that way. And I know you had a plan. But are you willing to do what you need to do so that you can be in the best position to be successful long term? It may work the first time, but this second or third time, long term, is not going to be able to work, man. So I think me having someone that I can just, for the most part, all right, I'm going to just listen. You're going to tell me what to do? I mean, think about it. You what, 29? Like, I'm 41. I just turned 41. Like, don't tell nobody that. I just told everybody that. You know what I mean? So you got me by 12 years, or I got you by 12 years, 11, 12. But I have to kind of submit and yield to you and your space of expertise. Yeah. All right. He's asking me to do this. He's telling me he wants to do this. And here's the thing. You're not asking or telling me to do something based on what you want me to do. It's based on what you want. It's what I want. So here's what I want to do, yet there are times that I don't want to do it. Right. But this is what I said I wanted. But again, it goes back to, I told you, people complain about Ohio State. So, hey, man, coach is getting on my nerves, man. They got me out of position, and you're complaining about all this stuff. And then when football's gone, you're like, man, I just wish I could be in the locker room one more time and talk to the coaches. Like, it's the same thing where, like, hey, man, you said you wanted this, so this is what you have to do to get it. And, like, the health component has shifted and kept that button in my ego off that I think I know everything. I know how to do everything. I don't need anybody's help. And that's the biggest piece. I just said, you're not designed to do life alone. So why would I go into any area of health and wellness and not talk to an expert? It doesn't even make any sense. Whether it be finances or anything else. Like, why would I buy a home without talking to people who've bought homes before? Like, all the things. So you just need that, and I needed that from you.
Well, dude, and that's what's been so fulfilling for me on my end. Like, even like I told you on Monday, you know, guys like you, clients of mine who you really open up. Like, you allow me in and you hand the keys over. And that's literally the magic, bro.
Yeah, man.
Like the guys who do that, like quite literally, I can say this with full confidence on this podcast. Like if you come into my program, you do that, you will 1,000, 50, 100 million % get results.
Absolutely.
Plain and simple.
Yeah, it's really simple.
Like it's really simple. You just got to
really
buy
simple.
it. But dude, with that, I'm so appreciative of it because I've seen that evolution in you.
Yeah.
I've seen you get smarter with your training. I see you, maybe not pushing back on certain things. Like you get it now. I see you really get it. So being in this place you are now, man, like knowing the things you know about training, like you're smart on it now. I've taught you a lot.
Yeah.
What would you go back and tell your younger self? I know that, dude, I ego lifted for so much of my life. I built horrible habits in the collegiate weight room. Like I had to change a lot and learn a lot myself before I even got into this and started helping other people. So now, us having worked together for 3 going on 4 years, like, what would you go back and tell your younger self that knowing the things you know now about training?
Man, that's tough, man. It would be good because now we got NIL deals. I would be able to afford my own trainer in the off season, right? Like you almost want to tell your strength conditioning coaches, like, hey, man, I appreciate you guys, man, but I'm gonna just do my own thing. I think you do have to be coachable. Like if you're at a college right now or whatever, like you got to do your lifting program. You got to do what you got to do. But I would have been more purpose driven. I mean, you just lift for numbers instead of lifting for longevity. And now I don't lift for numbers. I just lift for longevity. And so if I want to play ball a little bit longer, it's probably not necessary for me to be squatting 500 or 600 pounds every single week,
compromising your body just to hit
and
a weight.
You don't even know.
Like the weight's a byproduct, dude. Chase good reps. Good reps first. Weight's the byproduct.
And so like you do all these things, but in the moment, it is making you look like a monster. You are a beast on the field. You feel confident. You feel good. But internally, your body's like, yeah, you just don't know. You got about 3 more years left.
Yep.
Like, which is why I get to the NFL and all of a sudden cartilage in my knees breaking down and breaking off because I'm ignoring things that probably I shouldn't have ignored. I'm not flexible at all. I get in the training program. The coaches were opposite. They were like, don't lift weights. We don't want you to lift weights. Maybe a little bit here and there. We want you more flexible. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Flexibility. That's stupid.
Yeah.
Who, like, if I want, like, what am I, like, I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not a cheerleader. Like, what, like, I don't need to do splits. Like, what are we talking about? But they understood longevity, which is why Marvin Harrison never got hurt. I said junior because we did Bible study with Marvin Harrison Jr., but like at Ohio State, but Marvin Harrison never got hurt. Reggie Wayne was never hurt. They were always flexible, always had good shoulders, good mobility. You're playing 18, 19, 20-week seasons because those guys are going deep into the playoffs, but I didn't understand it. So when my body is falling apart and I'm trying to lift more weights, they're trying to pull it off of me. So like now there's no ego in it. If I try something and it hurts, I hear two things.
Don't do it.
Yeah, I hear 2 things. Hey, bro, just don't do it. Like I hear you saying that, and the other side is like, the other voice is like, man, come on, push through. But then I hear you like, hey, man, like if it hurts, we'll just alter. Like we'll figure out the alternative. Variation. Like it's a different variation. And so like that's just where I am now. So now I don't have the competitive ego side of me now. On certain things, I can compete that doesn't hurt. Like, we got teammates that work out with our guy Brady. And so sometimes but there are some things I'm like, no, I'm good. Yeah. I'm not like, I don't even have
and you'll compete, but you'll be smart.
Absolutely. Even if I'm doing some cardio outside when it's nice, because I hate running now. But when I'm running, I'm like, why do I need to run a 6-minute mile? That's stupid. Like, why don't I just run an 8-minute mile?
Back.
Like, like, why not? I can keep it going. It doesn't hurt. I won't feel it in the morning. So those moments where I would have been like, man, push through, like go for 6 minutes next week, go for 5, 10. Like, what are we doing?
Well, you know the irony of that? It's because you know more.
Yeah.
You're smarter now.
There you go.
You understand training at a deeper level.
Man.
And that's the irony of this whole thing is that this conversation we're having right now, right here, that's the irony of all of
And
this.
that's why everybody listening for the last 4 years, if I take all the money that I've invested in myself, which is really invested in this business, in this podcast, I have funded all of this. I joke and say I funded Zach's wedding and the engagement ring and everything else. So I'm a loyal client.
Hey, no, I know you are, man. I know you are.
It's funny, man.
But no, I am. It is really powerful to harness that because honestly, though, man, to be honest, like if you are someone ego lifting, like quite literally, it's just that's a sign you just don't really know what you're doing. To be honest,
no reason to. Yeah.
So here,
unless you're a security guard. If you're in security and you need to be swole or you're competing, go for it, bro. But
you heard what you said, man.
Yeah,
man. Your perspective and everything you just said has completely shifted from where it used to be.
Oh, for sure.
And you get it and you understand what real training means.
Yeah.
And real training, it doesn't destroy your body.
No,
real training builds your body up.
Yeah.
It makes you feel really fucking good. It doesn't make you feel beat down and like your joints are gonna break. And that's where we've gotten you to, man.
The cool part, you as a trainer and just a coach, is you will give some leeway. You will allow guys to do some things, and you will see what we are capable of. I mean, because there's that part too. Like, what can you do? Like, we know that bench press upper body is always going to be a thing that I can do as long as it doesn't impact my shoulder or my elbow, which is fine. We also found out that my hamstrings and my glutes are stronger than my quads, right? And so I can do certain things that maybe other people can't. We also found that my hamstrings aren't as strong as they used to be. So there was moments where early on you was like, okay, we can go heavier. Let's see what happens. But then you start to get little tweaks and things, and you're like, okay, look, now here's evidence to show that, yes, we can do this, but you're going to destroy your body right now. So I think the customization of things, to go back to your original question of what would you tell your younger self, I would tell my younger self to ask questions like, how does this contribute to the longevity of me as an athlete?
The why.
Like, I'm okay with doing 150,000 leg presses, but what is the long-term impact of this of me on the field and beyond? People always talk about life after football and they refer to education, but bro, what does life after football, life after sport look like when I'm done playing that sport for me just walking around?
Physically.
Just physically,
walking.
right. And is this sustainable? Nothing is sustainable. So you've trained me to be a freaking robot and a soldier, quote unquote, on the field and be this maniac and this monster and this beast. But how does that transition in my life after ball? I can't keep up with this.
Yeah.
And so I think that part will be really, really important.
Dude, absolutely. And I think that's the biggest irony in the sport of football. It's like we have the most violent sport ever.
Yeah.
Literally, this is the most violent and physically demanding sport. Why would we even remotely take the chance from a weightlifting standpoint of adding more fuel on that fire?
Yeah.
In my opinion, if you're training football athletes, you have to be even smarter and even more technical, even more attention to detail because those guys are already so physically susceptible of injury, tissue, all these things that can happen that can, by the way, ruin their career long term. And football, the span of an athlete, it's short as hell. Dude, the span of a football player is not long. So we know these things. Why the hell would we even remotely train people in a way that would beat them down? So that's my whole thought.
And when from a muscle standpoint, you build all this muscle, and if you hit a bad patch, all of a sudden, all that muscle just turns right into fat. The swollest people in the world, and you're like, man, what happened?
Yeah.
And what happened was life happened. And it wasn't so much that life happened I just didn't lift weights. It's just, man, all that work I put in just kind of got tucked off, and now it looks different. And now to try and re-engage, watch this, by yourself. Now I'm gonna go to this particular gym. It's not that big. It's not that expensive to go. I can go and do some cardio and some work. It takes a while to get back in the routine, and you're doing it by yourself. And now you don't want to pay for some coaching. But and so my thing is, we pay doctors, we pay attorneys, we pay dentists, we pay insurance, we pay car people to buy new car. We pay all these things, and all these things are contributing to our lives, but we don't want to pay and invest in our actual livelihood, right? And hey man, I need to invest this money in me. Hey man, I don't need this and this and this and this and this and this. We're not going on a trip this year. We're not doing this because if I don't do this for my body, it's going to be very, very hard for me. I'm not going to be a happy person. No. Right? So you think about how many people from a mental standpoint are angry and pissed off and depressed and still successful. So they got all the other stuff. But then they're like, man, I just don't even like looking in the mirror because I don't feel good. And how do I express that? So it's better to make an investment, I would say, in yourself first, in your mental and physical health versus all those other things.
Because all that other stuff will come. And it'll be tenfold better. I guarantee you, if you focus on your own health, fitness, the way you show up every day. And I've seen that impact you and just the way that you show up. And I know that, again, that contributes to a lot of your success in your day to day. I know that's talking to your right hand, Jocelyn, that's your lifeline, dude, getting that hour to just kind of detach, I mean, dude, for anyone busy out there, like it's the best because it gives you that time, put the phone down, like just finally give yourself like a moment to just like press pause, do your thing, take some time just for you in the day. And dude, it's unbelievable what that does for your mental health. But man, I know we're getting to the end here. But
terrible. This is awful.
I could keep going on for hours. And so I'm definitely going to have you on again. Probably going to have a lot of these guys on again. But dude, I want you to just close out with telling the audience a little bit about what you're doing now. I know that, we dabbled a little bit about talking about Driven and your professional speaking that you're doing with a lot of amazing organizations and corporate companies here in Columbus, Ohio and elsewhere, traveling around. So dude, tell me a little bit about, what you're up to now.
Yeah, man. Like I would just you got 2 places I need you guys to go. One, I need you to go check out the Driven Foundation at staydriven.org. If nothing else, just get some ideas about ways that you can impact your own communities, starting with maybe your household first and then maybe just your little zip code and then kind of go from there. But there are people and kids and families and individuals just like you who are out there right now that could use your support one way or another. Even if it's volunteering at a school and being the guest volunteer that walks in with donuts and the first 12 kids that walks through the door gets a donut or a pencil. Believe it or not, kids still like getting pencils or stickers or whatever it is. Just being a hall monitor for an hour out of your day can make a difference in the kid's life. And so like, how can you use what you have to make a difference? I encourage every time that you get your paycheck, even if things are tight, to take $5 or $10 and say, I'm gonna contribute this to this school fund or contribute this to this church or give this to this organization because they're making a difference in the community. There's nothing like being able to sacrifice what you have so that other people can have something. And a lot of people think that, man, when I get a lot, then I'll be able to give. Right. Well, if you're not giving when you don't have that much, you're not gonna give when you get a whole bunch of it. And when you get a whole bunch of it, whatever you give then is gonna seem like a lot to you, but it's really not that much, right? Like if you're making $100 million and you donate 10,000, I'm not judging that person. That's cool that you gave 10,000, but you got 100 million. You see what I'm saying? Like 10,000 is cool and it's going to look nice to whoever gets it and they're going to feel the impact of it. But you can make a difference, man, like a real difference when you really start to think about what we choose and spend our money on and how we spend and choose our time. Like everybody should be trying to figure out a way to support an organization that is impacting people who are just like you. Yeah. So if you look at your life, look at your moment in life where you were at your worst, and then say, how can I now, since I'm not there anymore, what can I do to help that cause? That's like where I tell people to start, whatever that thing may be. And then 2, the flip side of it is, if you're listening like, this is awesome and Zach's motivating me and Roy, this is inspirational and powerful, I need you to go to royhalljr.com because that's our speaking website. I get a chance to travel all around the country and speaking to Fortune 500 companies all the way down to nonprofit organizations, larger ones around the country, to motivate and inspire their people to be the best that they can be. So if you leading a sales team or you're in insurance or you just have some people that need an extra push on resilience or leadership, then I'm your guy, right? And so I like customizing messages, just like you customize workouts to make a long-term difference, man. And I've been blessed to be able to be on both sides. My life is surrounded with service one way or another. I get to make a difference in people's lives, which has been absolutely awesome. And so you mentioned earlier, 12 years running. I've been the team chaplain and one of the team chaplains for the Ohio State football team.
I think that's huge too, because like even from a player standpoint, dude, like that is something that is so underrated.
That's
like
the faith component, man.
The message that we get, dude. I told you that like a long time ago. That message we get at the place that we get it in our lives, like man. Just that development that happens at that university, man, and your impact on that is really cool.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. So I try and make it motivational and funny and fun for the guys, and it's hard to talk to 100 guys when they look like stone cold assassins right before a game, and they're like, man, I don't want to think about my faith right now. I want to run through somebody's face. But it's a good deal, man. So anyway, staydriven.org. Get some ideas on service, or you can contribute to us as well. But then also royhalljr.com if you're looking for somebody to come in and motivate your people.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
No, I appreciate you being here,
Appreciate
dude.
you, man.
This is awesome. Yeah.
This is awesome. Great platform, man. Good. It's beautiful facilities, nice. Look, man, big money. This is how I know. Hey, don't let him fool you guys, man.
Hey.
He's big time now. Come on now, we moving the needle. It's supposed to be like stock markets go up, the good stocks, man.
That's
you
right.
got up and down, but you look at it over the course of a year, man. There's
Only
nothing
up,
but upward trajectory, man. So it's good, man.
That's right.
It's a pleasure being here. Honor, man.
Dude, and
Third
like I
guest?
said, third guest.
Also want to let y'all know this is where he puts me on the friend totem pole. I'm okay. However, I'm okay. I'm okay with being number 3, right?
Hey, no.
Number 1 and number 2, they got different expectations. Number 3, you just roll in whenever you can, whenever you want to, brother. It's all good. No, I'm
Dude,
teasing,
no, this
bro.
was perfect,
you,
dude.
Good,
No, I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in to today's episode. If you want to be part of the Everyday Athlete community, check the show notes for both the Everyday Athlete Train and Everyday Athlete Elite programs. And if you or someone you know is a current or former athlete who wants their story told, reach out to me at Zach Tenore. That's ZACHTURNURE on Instagram.